We've all fallen for the chemistry of Hollywood's iconic on-screen couples. But did you know that some of these pairs despised each other off-camera? From fiery feuds to awkward tension, today we're revealing the hidden drama behind 15 on-screen romances that were anything but smooth behind the scenes. Which of your favorite couples had off-screen conflicts? Stick around. Some of these stories might surprise you. Swayze and Grey's natural chemistry made Dirty Dancing a beloved classic, but their relationship behind the scenes was rocky. Swayze, known for his disciplined approach, was often frustrated with Grey's tendency to giggle and lose focus during serious scenes. Grey, in turn, found Swayze's intense approach overwhelming. Tensions peaked during the infamous lift scene, which required several takes due to Grey's anxiety. Despite their differences, their off-screen friction mirrored their characters' love-hate relationship, and the authenticity of their dynamic helped make Dirty Dancing a film for the ages. The steamy scenes in 50 Shades of Grey demanded extreme vulnerability, which initially created a difficult working environment for Dornan and Johnson. While they didn't harbor actual hatred, they struggled to find a genuine connection, and their early scenes were marked by discomfort. Dornan's reserved nature and Johnson's desire for professionalism didn't mix well in the beginning. Fans noticed the tension during interviews and press tours, where their interactions seemed stilted and cold. As filming continued, they worked through their differences and developed mutual respect, but their initial discomfort unintentionally added an awkward intensity to their scenes together. Despite now being happily married, Kunis and Kutcher did not click immediately. Kunis found Kutcher over the top, and his playful antics irritated her, as she was still adjusting to working on a major television set. Kutcher, on the other hand, viewed her as too young, and often dismissed her opinions. Their characters, Jackie and Kelso, had a rocky relationship, which ironically mirrored their real-life dynamic. Over time, as they matured and got to know each other better, they found common ground. Looking back, Kunis has said that her initial dislike for Kutcher was more about nerves than actual animosity. But their awkward start remains a surprising detail in the love story they would later share. The intense sci-fi film Blade Runner was challenging on many levels, but Ford and Young's relationship on set added another layer of difficulty. Ford, a serious actor known for his dedication, found Young's personality difficult to work with. Young, in one of her first major roles, felt overshadowed and intimidated by Ford's direct manner. The tension between them was especially evident during their famous love scene, dubbed the hate scene by the crew, where both actors seemed visibly uncomfortable. Their off-screen hostility unintentionally complemented the tense, dystopian atmosphere of Blade Runner, enhancing the complexity of their characters' strained connection. Wilson's reportedly erratic behavior became a source of contention for Beckinsale, who approached her work with a high level of professionalism. Wilson was known for showing up late, sometimes hungover, and Beckinsale grew increasingly frustrated with him. At one point, she insisted on using a stand-in to avoid working directly with Wilson, and the tension between them was palpable to the cast and crew. Ironically, the on-screen tension worked well for their roles, as they portrayed a couple under severe psychological stress. While the movie benefited from their strained interactions, Beckinsale has since hinted that working with Wilson was one of her least favorite professional experiences. Kirk Cameron's transformation into a born-again Christian at 17 influenced his career choices, and this shift led to major disagreements with his Growing Pains co-star, Julie McCullough. Cameron objected to McCullough's former modeling for Playboy, which he felt clashed with the show's family-friendly values. He reportedly spoke to producers, leading to McCullough's character being written out of the show. McCullough later voiced her disappointment, accusing Cameron of being judgmental and hypocritical. Cameron has defended his actions, stating his beliefs were central to his decisions, but the two have never reconciled, leaving a significant rift that made their working relationship one of Hollywood's most controversial. As Tony and Maria in West Side Story, Bamer and Wood were supposed to exude deep love and passion, but in reality, Wood reportedly disliked Bamer intensely. She went as far as keeping a list of people she disliked, with Bamer's name at the top. Bamer remained unaware of her intense dislike until much later. Wood's distaste for Bamer was never fully explained, but the disconnect impacted their interactions on set, making it challenging to portray the depth of their on-screen relationship. Despite the tension, they delivered iconic performances, with their strained connection adding a hint of forbidden allure to their love story. Jennifer Aniston reportedly had her heart set on a high-profile co-star and was disappointed when Jay Moore was cast in Picture Perfect. According to Moore, Aniston's dissatisfaction was evident in her behavior, often making passive-aggressive remarks and treating him with open disdain. Moore, who was relatively new to Hollywood, found her attitude emotionally exhausting, admitting that he would sometimes cry at his mother's house after a particularly difficult day on set. Despite the off-screen tension, Aniston and Moore delivered convincing performances, though Moore later said the experience left a lasting negative impression on him. In Dynasty, Collins and Forsythe portrayed bitter rivals, and their off-screen relationship mirrored this dynamic. Collins, who played the glamorous and scheming Alexis Carrington, was vocal about her frustration with Forsythe's behavior, often describing him as misogynistic and old-fashioned. Forsythe reportedly resented Collins's rising star power and her demands for equal pay, seeing them as over the top. Their interactions became so strained that they avoided each other outside of filming. But the tension only intensified the on-screen rivalry that made Dynasty a hit. The psychological thriller 9.5 Weeks required both actors to navigate dark and complex emotions. Rourke's method of acting, which often saw him isolating himself from Basinger, added an extra layer of difficulty for her. Basinger felt unsupported, and her discomfort on set was heightened by the emotionally intense material. Director Adrian Lyne employed harsh tactics to elicit vulnerable performances from Basinger, pushing her to her limits. Rourke's reserved approach only increased the strain, leading to an uncomfortable work environment that mirrored the tumultuous relationship of their characters. Monroe's acting methods clashed drastically with Olivier's classical training. Known for her reliance on acting coach Paula Strasberg, Monroe's need for guidance irritated Olivier, who was frustrated by her tardiness and frequent mood swings. Olivier reportedly told her to just be sexy, which Monroe found condescending. Their conflicting approaches created palpable tension, with Olivier often rolling his eyes at her methods and Monroe struggling to perform under his critical eye. The strained dynamic added an unintentional layer of complexity to their characters, reflecting an on-screen tension that complemented their off-screen discord. Nolte and Roberts' disdain for each other was no secret, with Roberts openly describing Nolte as disgusting and difficult to work with. Nolte, in turn, called her not a nice person. Their mutual dislike led to some scenes being shot with stand-ins, creating a noticeable lack of chemistry that critics quickly picked up on. Despite the tension, both actors tried to remain professional, though their strained interactions resulted in an awkward on-screen dynamic that detracted from the romantic premise of the film. Vance and Frawley's characters, Ethel and Fred Mertz, shared comedic chemistry, but behind the scenes, their relationship was notoriously bitter. Vance reportedly found it unflattering that Frawley, who was significantly older, played her husband and often made disparaging remarks about the age gap. Frawley, known for his gruff personality, didn't take her jokes lightly, leading to a feud that became legendary. Their dislike was so intense that when a spin-off featuring Fred and Ethel was suggested, both actors refused to participate. Their animosity added an edge to their bickering on screen, making their characters' dynamic even more memorable. Gosling and McAdams created one of the most iconic on-screen romances of the 2000s in The Notebook. However, off-screen, they could barely stand each other at first. Their dynamic was so strained that Gosling requested a stand-in to replace McAdams in certain scenes. Director Nick Cassavetes eventually set up a mediation session where the two actors aired their grievances, shouting out their frustrations in a closed room. Ironically, this intense confrontation helped them break the ice, and soon, they developed genuine chemistry. In a twist worthy of a romance film, Gosling and McAdams began dating after filming, and their real-life relationship became as passionate and tumultuous as their characters, capturing fans' hearts worldwide. In Sabrina, Bogart and Hepburn portray a romantic pairing, but Bogart isn't pleased about working with Hepburn from the start. He had hoped his wife, Lauren Bacall, would take the role of Sabrina, and Hepburn's inexperience added to his frustration. Bogart, who was already a Hollywood veteran, frequently criticized Hepburn's need for multiple takes, often rolling his eyes and muttering complaints between scenes. Hepburn, sensing his displeasure, became even more nervous, which only increased the tension on set. The friction only grew when Hepburn's brief romance with co-star William Holden became public. Despite their differences, both delivered captivating performances that made Sabrina a classic. But their on-screen love masked the resentment simmering beneath the surface.